When you spend enough years in a place like St. Jude's Asylum, you think you've seen it all. You think nothing can shake you anymore. I told myself it was an asylum, a place for the sick, but the truth is, it was a place where people came to be forgotten. The walls themselves seemed to hold all the sorrow, and all the secrets. I'd built up a thick shell over the decades, a cynicism that kept me on my feet. But that shell started to crack. First with a new patient, Sarah, whispering about terrors that felt all too real. And then with the memory of a nurse, Helen Evans, who warned me about the same things years ago, right before she disappeared for good. I ignored Helen, a mistake that's been eating at me. Now, I've started looking for answers, and the more I dig, the more I realize this place isn't just haunted by ghosts. It's run by monsters. And the chief among them, Superintendent Croft, seems to know I'm sniffing around. And that's why, I'm sure of it, he sent me there. You know, there's a part of the asylum, a place we all just try to forget, the West Wing's West Wing, you could call it. It was where they sent the ones they said were beyond recovery, and I'd avoided it for years. A corner of the building I just didn't want to know existed. Of course, Croft sent me there. He never gives you a direct order, not him. It's always a suggestion. A few of the other attendants had conveniently come down with the flu right when things were getting bad in the locked ward, so Croft suggested I might want to broaden my understanding. The message was clear. I was being sent into the one place I never wanted to go. The air gets thick the second you turn the key in that old lock, and the corridor beyond is narrow and dark. The walls. God, the walls. The paint is peeling off in sheets, and the damp stains underneath look like screaming faces if you stare at them for too long. And the silence is different down there. It's heavy, like it's crushing you, only broken by these awful, muffled sounds. A thudding from one room, a little bit of crying from another that just stops, a raw scream that sounds like it's coming up through the floor. Every sound just hangs in the air. You walk down that hall and it's just one horror after another. There's a girl in the first cell, just a skeleton, rocking and whispering names to no one. The woman in the next cell was worse, in a way. Just silent, her face pressed to the bars, staring at something none of us could see. It makes you sick to your stomach. But I knew which cell I was looking for, number 12. There was a memory tied to that room, something I'd buried deep. I forced myself to look through the bars and the man inside. He wasn't yelling. He was just whispering to an empty corner of the room, but he was terrified, like something was standing right there with him. This wasn't just madness. It felt like his soul was being ripped out. And that's when I saw it. A little symbol scratched on the doorframe, a spiral in a circle, and my blood ran cold, because it was the same symbol from Helen Evans' ledger. Back in my room, I couldn't shake it. That file. It unlocked something in me. The nightmares started. Not just bad dreams, but replays. I'm there again, younger, standing behind Croft while he works. I can smell the ether, hear the hum of his machine. And the scream. It wasn't a sound of pain, it was a sound of a mind breaking, of a soul just shattering. And Croft, he just says, fascinating. And I just stood there. I did nothing. I was a coward, plain and simple. Night after night, I'd see it again, see myself handing him the tools, see the terror in the patient's eyes. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, the guilt just crushing me. The dreams. They kept showing me a place, a disused office I'd forgotten even existed. I finally couldn't take it anymore. I had to find it. It was just as dusty and forgotten as in my dreams, and behind an old filing cabinet I saw it. A loose brick in the wall. My heart was pounding as I pulled it out. Behind it was a little hidden space, and inside, a stack of old files and a small velvet box. In the box was a locket, and inside the locket, a picture of Helen Evans. She was with some man I'd never seen before, smiling. And under the locket was a note from her. It was short, and the words were shaky. "They are not treatments," it read. "He is breaking them. I have proof. The real files. He's hiding them. If anything happens to me, look for the hidden annex. He calls it his sanctuary." Suddenly it all made sense. Helen wasn't just suspicious. She was fighting back. And she left a trail. A trail that I now had to follow. I knew, standing there in that dusty, forgotten room, that my journey into this asylum's darkness had just begun. And it was leading me into the most terrifying corners of my own broken memories. The silence in my room after that was heavier than ever, because I was thinking about the archives, and that file on Sarah Vance. Patient 7. I'd been so focused on finding Helen's ledger that first time, I wondered what else I might have missed. I had to go back. I went straight to the dusty corner where I had found the ledger, but there was nothing. I was about to give up when I looked at the old box I'd pulled the ledger from in the first place, and on a hunch I pulled it down. My heart was pounding when I felt it, a little seam in the cardboard, a false bottom, and inside was another folder with 2 letters on it, SV Sarah Vance. It was her file, Patient 7, all documented by Croft. It started off normal enough, melancholia, sadness, but then it gets dark. Croft wasn't trying to help her. He was studying her, writing about her auditory hallucinations and the shadows that moved with this hungry curiosity. He mentions novel psychoactive agents and electroconvulsive therapies that went way beyond normal practice. And then he calls it a potential breakthrough. And then I found the notes about Helen. He wrote that she was getting too attached, interfering with his work. He even mentioned an incident where Sarah screamed at Helen, calling her one of them, and that Helen was isolated from her after that. But there were pages torn out, huge gaps in the story, like someone was trying to hide what really happened. Tucked in the file was a photo of a younger Sarah, smiling, full of life. Next to it, Croft had written, "The resonant frequency remains elusive." What the hell did that mean? It was all there. The experiments, the secrecy, Helen's growing fear. It wasn't just about one patient. This was a pattern. Croft wasn't just a doctor. He was a monster hiding behind science. And the file was proof. The missing pages were just as loud as the words that were there, screaming that something terrible had happened to Sarah Vance and to Helen Evans for trying to stop it. And I was standing right in the middle of it all, finally understanding that the real sickness in this asylum wasn't in the patients, but in the man who held all the keys.